means, because one of his disciples came to him and said, I want to follow you, but my father died, I have to go and bury him. And he said, let the dead bury the dead. Which means those that are spiritually dead, let them bury the physically dead. You are spiritually alive. Okay, it makes perfect sense. If it didn't mean that, Jesus would be a fool. Because the dead can't bury, the physically dead can't bury physically dead. Okay, so we know from various other passages where Jesus said you must be born again, but he said that doesn't mean you go back into the womb. That means what is of the flesh, what is the spirit of the spirit. So wine, in all the religions, has been a symbol for becoming inebriated with God. Wine is a symbol that God, you can become intoxicated by God. So we see in the physical world that there's a way in which your brain, physical brain, can be inebriated, intoxicated. There is a spiritual way. There's a spiritual wine. And that spiritual wine is the wine of God, the wine of the love of God. So if you like to get drunk, you're allowed to get drunk this way and not this way. Consequently, Shoghi Effendi had no problem referring to the Babis as God intoxicated. That's the exact word he says in the opening of first page of God Passes By. He says a galaxy of God intoxicated heroes. Because he said those that are in love with God are intoxicated by God. Have any of you ever been intoxicated by God? The spiritual equivalent? You haven't?
I feel like I have on some of the writings.
Every day you read this quote or say this prayer and you feel, oh my God, I'm just drunk.
Yeah.
I'm spiritually drunk. Well, it's one of the great symbols. So what I want to explain to you is that we are being called upon to see God, to hear God, to taste God, to touch God in a spiritual way. Some of the meditative disciplines ask you to heighten all five of your physical senses before you can do it. If you go to India, for example, I've been to India 6 times, or actually 7 times now, they do things with smell in which they will burn incense, or they will have little essential oils that you put on your thing, on your face or your body, or wax that they melt a candle that has perfume in it, and you smell it. And at the same time, they'll play music. And at the same time, they'll like maybe do a massage or a relaxation or a yoga that does the physical senses. And even the way they prepare their foods. And then even they study mandalas on the walls, which are shapes for their eyes. And everything, the way they dance, the way they design, and even the way they cook their food, all has a spiritual counterpart. Because, one of the great writers said that India is a non-stop assault on all 5 senses. Okay, if you go to India, this color is just color, and smells, and foods, and perfumes, and music, and so on. Because they learn very quickly that there's a spiritual equivalent to these things, that they heighten those. We are very polluted even materially. Sonically, how polluted is your life sonically? Does anybody really care anymore about what sounds you bombard? Would you agree? I mean, how many of you wake up and there's noise when you wake up? Is there a TV on, or are there other people in the house doing things?
Somebody lives downstairs.
Somebody lives downstairs.
They never turn off the TV.
They never turn off the TV. How many of you go to work and there's sound all day long? And sound. How many of you ever gone to a Baha'i meeting either? I'm sorry, the camera's on. I've been to Baha'i feasts where the TV is on when I walk in. TV's on, it's blasting on, they're watching the basketball game or the Fox News or something like that. They're watching the thing like that. It's on, everybody, hey, hello, Pa, how are you? Yes. Okay, it's time to see the prayers, let's go. Turn the TV off. Oh, God. And they just turn the TV off, and you're like that. There's no sense of sacredness of sound. And you know that you hear so much truth in silence. Silence is one of the great keys. In fact, there's one talk about meditation, which we'll read later on in some of the classes, where Adi says you cannot meditate without silence. Silence is an essential component to that second spiritual power. Some people cannot meditate because they just don't know how to get silence in their lives. So, what I want to ask you to do is to start using the first spiritual power this week. Next week, I'll work on your second spiritual power. So, how many of you are Baha'is here? Okay, And you're not, are you Christian, or do you have any passages that you can read from your scriptures, or if you like I can give you some other scriptures. I want you now to visualize every line. And I don't want you to move on until you've seen it. Even though it may be a little hard to do, you're not allowed to move on until you can see it. In other words, we're going to translate everything into Egyptian. Where we see Egyptian was a language that didn't have any words based on what you spoke. Every word was a picture. So if I wanted to have a word for happiness, what picture could I have?
Smile.
I would have to have a face smiling or something like that. Okay, and do you remember I told you the original meaning of the word happiness was suckling baby? That's the word.
Makes sense.
The word Felicia comes from suckling babe. So because originally all words had a picture. So now I want you to go back to that original symbolic language. Okay, so let's say we have a prayer. From the sweet-scented streams of thine eternity, give me to drink, oh my God. So we read that prayer. Okay. From the sweet-scented streams, who can give me a vision of that right now? If you have it, raise your hand if you can see it. What do you see?
I see like a river with running water, with lots of trees and plants and flowers alongside of it.
Okay, what did you see?
Yeah, same thing, like honeysuckles.
You saw honeysuckle. Okay. Now, we're only using one of the 5 physical senses. What else can you partake of that stream?
Smell.
Okay, let's try it now again. From the sweet-scented streams of thine eternity.
The trickling sound of water.
Oh, now you got the sound. Who can smell it? Because it says sweet-scented.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't smell it? What does it smell like?
That's why I said honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle.
Because you said sweet smell.
You could actually smell honeysuckle?
And you could hear the water and the smell. I mean, I visualized that whole
Okay.
creek flowing.
From the sweet-scented streams of thine eternity. Now, how are we going to get this? Who can tell me how it can be a stream of his eternity?
Goes on forever.
Okay. Tell me how you see it. Go on.
Well, it always replenishes itself, and it never dries out.
So are you seeing it flowing endlessly, or what are you exactly seeing?
That, or it just never, the stream like goes over a waterfall but never.
Oh, okay, going over. Who else can see it?
Kind of like Ziva's pool, the endless pool.
Okay, Ziva's pool. Okay, who else can see
I'm
it?
seeing the waterfall. I don't see the beginning of it. I don't know where it ends.
Okay, so you're trying. Okay, now it says, "From the sweet-scented streams of thine eternity, give me to drink, oh my God." Okay, now who can drink it?
We can taste it. It's
Can you taste it?
sweet and
Tastes like honey.
Tastes like honey? Okay, who else is drinking it?
Cold.
It's cold? Okay. What is it to you?
pure.
It's the same.
Okay. Let's say we do this with any prayer. By the way, you can do it with every single line of every prayer, but I'm going to take you now through the second sense. You now use spiritual power number 1. You visualized it. Spiritual number 2 is to reflect on that relationship. Somehow, the man-God relationship is the same relationship as the physical body drinking stream relationship. There's a certain relationship of the physical body going and smelling the sweet water and the water, and we taste it. Okay. So, now I want you to reflect on that. And when you reflect on it, a comprehension will come to you about something between God. God is like this or like that. I want you to tell me what you get. Who wants to give me their first reflection? Yes?
I'm seeing the eternalness of it.
Okay. But I want you to come to some conclusion like Einstein. I'll give you one. That means that God smells good. Okay? Now you give me one.
Tastes good.
God tastes good. What else?
Sounds good.
God sounds good.
And it's eternity.
God comes from eternity. God tastes as good as water when you're thirsty. How important is water to your physical life?
Oh.
So how important is God to your spiritual life? Okay, I'm asking you questions just to see how long can you go in the reflection mode. I generally give myself 15 minutes on any one line. I keep asking myself over and over again. That's reflection mode. At some stage you come to some new comprehension, the third spiritual power, of which now I understand God in a way that I never, with one line of a prayer. But I come to that analogy. Then I memorize it very easily because I associate it with the vision. Now, this week I want you all to take one prayer, and I want you just to at least visualize every single line. Bring the prayer to me next week, and if you don't have a prayer, ask me, or quote. It can be a hidden word. It can be let's say the hidden word is "Thou art my lamp and my light is in thee," or the hidden word is, any Baha'i writing you can easily visualize because they're already there. They have streams and mountains and valleys and forests and so on. Visualize them every week, and then we'll see if we can meditate upon those visions. See if we can do an Einstein to these things, and then we'll learn various other methods.
Are the Christian writings like that?
Of course, the Christian is even better because
the Buddhists are very much, the Hindu writings.
the difference between Baha'u'llah and Christian is that Jesus didn't say the something of something. So Baha'u'llah says, "Rain down from the clouds of thy bounty." Okay, so now he's basically telling you that his bounty is like rain and it comes from clouds. Jesus just said, "Clouds rain." Okay, because in those days they understood that that was a spiritual. So consequently, now a lot of people he was talking about clouds rain. They don't realize. Whereas Baha'u'llah, usually he makes it clear. He says, for example, he refers to the light of unity. Okay, so he's saying unity is something like light. What is light like? And what is unity like? Why does he say the light of unity? He says the something of something. In other words, when he talks about things, he always gives you a physical thing of the spiritual thing. And so he's telling you there's some quality of light that's equal to unity. And that's quite counterintuitive. If you ask me, if I said, what is a good symbol for unity, would you say light?
Yeah.
No. So Baha'u'llah's teaching us something here about how there's certain qualities of light that's there. So that's for later on.
Probably it's 9 o'clock.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go. But that's a beginning of meditation, only the theory. We haven't really started practicing it yet. So we'll go next week.
But Tom, these thoughts you made, I cannot write short to the group.
Oh, you don't have to. I did this
is very difficult.
This one is different.
Whichever of you has a good memory, send me the 5 things that you start.
I'll just send you a passage from Al-Baha on this subject. I'll send you because most of these things are based
I'll send that because this
quotation.
is too complicated for me.
Well, no, I did this on purpose today because people weren't here, so this is like extra background.
But you know what? Tom taught me something that I never did before. And when I would pray, he said that we need to use the senses, and he said that the Indians use perfume. So I had some rose water. I said, look, this is that. Let me try. So I would put it here, and even on the carpet. I put when I say obligatory, I put it on the carpet. And it's amazing. It helps for the concentration.
Oh, yes.
It's a good feeling.
Try that this week.
My mother puts like that.
Huh?
The Orthodox Church.
Yes,
they put perfume.
Oh, absolutely.
I never knew why they do it.
This week,
because
if you
sometimes
pray,
it smells so much that it wants
do it
to
with
suffocate.
you can do it with a smell, or you can do it with a touch. This is very good before, or this. Or the rosary beads or anything like that. Do that for a little while, or have a massage if you've got someone that can help you. Or what's another physical touch? Smelling is very good. Oh, and music. Play music beforehand, or some kind of spiritual sound. In other words, if you want to soothe your soul, soothe any one of the 5 senses prior to it, and it will help you. Oh, and also you need to be clean. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
Did I tell you that last week?
No, I don't think so.
Baha'u'llah said something that scared me to death, and I only really noticed it about a year ago. he said if there's any spot on your clothes, your prayers won't ascend unto heaven, unto God.
No, I think he can say this century. I think if Muhammad or Christ or the others said it, poor the people of that time, they would take a bath once.
All I
the
know-
kings would take a bath once.
All I know is that when I read that, I realized that virtually none of my
But
prayers
this is
ever
for
made
this
it.
century. I
And-
think this is for this century.
But every now and then I get up to say my prayers and I go and change my clothes. I do. But the interesting thing is, it has an effect on you. It actually has a spiritual effect. Certain physical things have a spiritual effect. Okay, sorry I talked too long tonight. I apologize.
But Zeno's not here.
Oh yeah, if he had been here, I wouldn't have talked about it.
Yeah, it's a second.